And there's the call recording notice. We will put this up on our website, on the USTAR website shortly, so just be aware that that will be happening. Any questions that you have, please ask them over the chat feature, and you can do those to the presenter or to all, and we will coordinate the questions. If we see one coming in at a time when we should answer it right away, of course, we'll try to get to that, and we will be answering questions at the end of the webinar. So let's go ahead and begin. And I'll just share the screen. For USTAR's University Technology Acceleration Grants. And I apologize. The roadmap for tonight, we will begin with an overview of USTAR, followed by an overview of the UTAG program itself, the application process, the components of the application, review criteria, the post-award information, and ending with essential information, as well as any questions that we may have. USTAR's vision and mission begins with the state of Utah, vision and Utah will lead the nation as a best-performing economy and be recognized as a premier global business destination. That is what the governor wants, and we feed into this by building a robust innovation ecosystem within the state of Utah. Our mission is to accelerate the commercialization of Utah science and technology ideas generated from the private sector, entrepreneurial, and university researchers in order to positively elevate tax revenue, employment, and corporate retention in the state of Utah. We have 4 primary tasks: supporting technology entrepreneurs and innovators through training, funding, incubator, and acceleration programs, brokering technology transfer by connecting capital, management, and industry, and addressing market gaps in Utah's technology ecosystem, and finally, of course, strengthening Utah's research capacity. We have competitive funding programs to include the University Technology Acceleration Grants, UTAG, that we're here to discuss tonight. These are competitive funding for technology prototyping and development from Utah researchers of nonprofit colleges and universities. We also have Technology Acceleration Program, the TAP program, which is quite similar, but it is meant for startup companies, and we will have that coming out in late February. February 27th, I believe, will be the date for the next round of TAP funding. We also have Science and Technology Initiation Grants, STIG. These are available to university researchers as a precursor for larger, more commercial-oriented federal grants. This is an ongoing program available at any time. You can apply today for money moving forward. Industry Partnerships Program is our final program, which addresses technology gaps within Utah's industries and is, again, an ongoing program. All of these are listed on our website in more detail. So what is UTAG? A competitive funding program for technology prototyping and development. This is not to support basic research, but advanced research, supporting Utah's research and development with significant commercial potential that needs additional development and will be spun out of the university setting. It must be developed in Utah's university college labs. It must advance the maturity or de-risk technology, and it must have an identified market and commercialization plan. And this is probably the largest differentiator between this and other grants that you'll apply for. USTAR, while we're looking for research that is advanced research from researchers or research teams at university and colleges, we must have an identified market and commercialization path moving forward in order to be funded. The funds available for this round of spring FY17 is about $3 million. The total funding for UTAG for FY17 is approximately it is $4.5 million. Complete information is found at ustar.org under our programs. Eligibility, as we've mentioned, researcher or research team from Utah's nonprofit universities and colleges. The research must take place in the institution setting. personnel costs must be institution employees. And you cannot have received funding in the same fiscal year from USTAR's UTAG or TAP program, or from GOED's TCIP program. That's the Governor's Office of Economic Development TCIP program. So if you have received money from USTAR or GOED in FY17 for UTAG, TAP, or TCIP, you are not eligible. You must be at a technology readiness level, or a TRL, of 2 to 5. And your final TRL cannot exceed 6. The link to the TRL descriptions on the application website at utagutah.com, and we're going to discuss those in just a moment. You must align with USTAR's targeted industry sectors. The targeted industry sectors fill gaps in Utah's technology infrastructure, and we will discuss those as well. They are also found in the program announcement in detail. You must work with your Office of Special Projects as is appropriate to the institution that you're working with. Technology readiness levels are 1 through 9. These were started in NASA and have been adopted throughout the DoD. We are looking at UTAG projects between 2 and 5, again not to exceed TRL level 6 upon outcome. So TRL 2 is technology concept or application formulated. TRL 5 is your component and or breadboard validation in relevant environment. That's the area that we're looking at, and there is more detail to be found on the technology section of the online application. But this is a specific ask that you will fill out in the application and throughout your milestones. The targeted technology sectors are automation and robotics, aerospace, advanced materials, big data, energy and clean technology, and life sciences. And again, we are looking to fill the gaps in Utah's technology infrastructure. Detailed descriptions of the targeted technology sectors are found in the UTAG program announcement at ustar.org, our program, UTAG. The application process begins today. The first stage is a letter of intent, which is due Friday, February 10th at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. This is not required and is non-binding. It helps the USTAR staff to find the appropriate reviewers for each sector. If you would email the letter of intent to utaginfo@utah.gov in simple language with the institution and researcher names indicating the technology sector that you'll be applying to. Stage 2 is the application itself, which is due Thursday, February 23rd at 5 p.m. This is an online application that we will go over in detail in just a bit. The third stage is a possible presentation. Applicants may be asked to present their idea or technology to the USTAR team as is required. Finally, the award notification will happen within 45 days of deadline. The online application includes an overview, technology, business case, funding, and team. And while we'll go into the actual funding, the actual application, this is what is in the black section on the small picture on the left. There are documents to download, complete, and upload, and they are the scope of work, the UTAG quad chart, and the grant claim of confidentiality. There are also documents to create and upload, and that is primarily the white paper. Applicants agree to the terms and conditions upon submission, and the terms and conditions are available on the website when you log in and create your own application. Applications, again, are found at utagutah.com. Before we get into the application itself, I wanted to show you the first page because I've already logged in and you won't be able to see this. The first page, welcome and consent, there you're saying that you understand your technology must be affiliated with the university, and you pull from a drop-up menu, in case not a drop-down menu, it goes up, wherein you will pick your university affiliation. You'll see here the University of Utah, Utah State University, Southern Utah University, Utah Valley, Weber State, Dixie State, Brigham Young University, Westminster College, Snow College, and Salt Lake Community College are all eligible for this funding. Again, I'd like to point your attention to the right side of your screen, the overview, technology, business case, funding, and team. The 5 areas that you'll see as we move forward. This is a scale that shows you how far along in the process you are. And now we'll go to the website. One moment. Okay. So here you see we're on the summary page. You can see the sections of the application on the far left. Summary. Here is where you can download all of the documents, the GRAMA form, the quad chart, the scoring rubric, the spring program announcement, the scope of work, and the terms of condition. The scoring rubric is also contained within the spring program announcement. Also the timeline, see that we have opened today, the 23rd. We are closing 2/23, and the judging will close on 3/13. Again, you'll notice on the right the scaling on overview, technology, business case, funding, and team. Within the overview section, the one item I'd like to point out here, this is very self-explanatory. This is the one place that a title will be required. Of course, you can include that on the white paper, which we'll talk about later, but this is where it will be required. Additionally, as we come down, you'll see your technology sector. The technology sector has a drop-down menu. Where will you be applying to? You'll fill in some things that we're more used to, the number of team members, our revenues, those kinds of things. I don't believe that anybody on this call will have revenue, but if there is you will be filling in your budget request. You'll put in your technical contact as well as your business contact, and this is where you will upload the forms when you have filled them out. The quad chart, the white paper, the GRAMA, scope of work, and any letters of support that you have. On the technology link, you will put in a product description as well as indicate your technology readiness level. So here is where the basics of the TRL will come into play, and you can determine where your technology is currently. You will also add your milestones as you move forward and save with the milestones in. We're going to talk about the scope of work as well as the white paper, both of which require milestones, and we suggest that you start with the scope of work and then move outward, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The business case has the go-to-market strategy and the economic impact to the state. You'll notice that here we're asking that you use the same language as you have in your white paper. Again, looking for that white paper to be at least in a solid draft before you add information into the business case, if not completed, to make sure that they don't contradict each other or give misinformation to anyone reading, particularly the reviewers. Funding has 2 sections, the funding section as well as the budget by fiscal year. The funding section has probably a primary responsibility of showing what kind of funding you have received to date, your R01 funding, any funding that you may have received from your institution, anything that you have. We want to see how that has been funded so far. You'll be able to show that here by adding a funding event showing your source name, date funded, and amount. You will also indicate the amount of funds you're requesting from UTAG. You will then be able to put in your budget by technical milestones with the milestone, personnel cost, operations, and travel, as well as by fiscal year with personnel costs, operations, and travel. One of the biggest questions that we receive on UTAG and TAP funding is how much should my proposal be? What should my budget be? What is your ceiling? And the answer is there isn't a ceiling, nor is there a minimum. You should request the amount that is necessary by milestone for your project to be completed and moved ahead on the TRLs. If you're moving from a 2 to a 3, from a 3 to a 5, then you need to look at the work that's involved in that and have a budget that matches the work that you're going to be doing. We do not offer ceilings or minimums. We'll now go to the team, which is probably the easiest to put in. This is just simply adding team members. You're going to be discussing your team at length in your white paper, and we'll discuss that moving forward. So the summary has the sections that you're going to be looking for. The overview provides details and allows you to upload your documents. The technology sector allows you to talk about your milestone and have a project description. The business case will allow for the market and impact to the state. Funding will show prior funding as well as what you're requesting for this proposal, and the team will delineate the team that's going to be involved in this process. And I will now see if I can move here. Thank you. Nope. We will move forward. Thank you. So just to once again go over, the online application will include the overview, technology, business case, funding, and team. You will complete the scope of work, the quad chart, the GRAMA claim of confidentiality, and create a white paper, all of which will be uploaded. You will agree to the terms and conditions upon submission, which are readily available. All of this is at utagutah.com. Let's talk about the scope of work just for a moment. It is a very simple document. You can download the form, which is a basic Word document. The milestone base of this will become part of the contract. So it's very important that you fill this out completely and clearly demonstrate the forward movement of the project. They are asking for a description of 2 to 3 sentences to describe the work, with a timeline, a deliverable, and a budget for each milestone. You will then have a total project length. UTAG is suggesting a 12 to 18-month project, but certainly it can be less. It cannot be more than 18 months. Finally, you will provide a timeline by milestone and month, of which we provided an example, and there is an example on the scope of work document as well, outlining when your work will take place as each milestone begins and ends. And again, this can be up to 18 months. You will do a description, timeline, deliverable, and budget for each milestone. The budget for each milestone needs to be delineated by fiscal year. Because we're running, or could run for 18 months, you could run across fiscal year 17, fiscal year 18, and fiscal year 19, remembering that fiscal years are July 1 through June 30. The white paper requirements, it is a 6-page maximum, 8.5 by 11-inch paper, 1-inch margins on all sides, 12-point font. Figures and charts can be 10-point, and no specific font is required, with 1.5 spacing throughout. Failure to meet these requirements will result in immediate elimination, so make sure that you follow these rules. The white paper is something that you will create, 6 sections. And this is delineated very well in the program announcement. The first section is an introduction. Limit that to 1 page. The rest are suggested limits, but the introduction is a limit of 1 page. The technical section will include your milestones, technical risk, and timeline. We suggest that you have mitigation and risks very well delineated in this section. We're suggesting 2 to 3 pages. The team, we suggest a half a page, and this will be where you will tell the reviewers why your team is the best team and how well they work together, indicating any past history that they may have had, and we'll go over all of the criteria for each of these in just a bit. The market assessment and commercialization plan suggests 2 to 3 pages. Again, the differentiator on this particular ask is that we are looking for how are you going to bring this to market, what is the market, who are your competitors, and how are you going to move it forward? What is the economic impact to Utah? We're suggesting a half a page. And the funding, we're suggesting a half a page, wherein we're looking at past funding, future funding, and of course, any budget justification for your current program. Make certain that the white paper matches the online application. You've seen this as we went through the application, but you don't want to have information that is different in one document than in another. References can be included with the white paper and do not count against the 6-page limit. And letters of support can also be included. They are not required. There is a limit of 3 letters with no more than 5 pages in total. Not 5 pages per letter, but 5 pages in total. Only letters in support of customer need or commercialization partnerships will be reviewed. No letters in support of the proposal or technology will be considered. These are letters of support for the customer need or the commercialization partnership only. And they can be included with the white paper and will not count against the 6-page limit. However, any attempt to circumvent the white page 6-page limit will result in immediate elimination. Tips for your white paper: be concise. Clearly address each component. Use clear, non-jargon language. Review the scoring rubric. This is available as a separate document as well as a part of the program announcement. And assure you have covered the points that will be scored. Does the white paper match the online application? And any questions you have will be presented through utaginfo@utah.gov for public viewing. USTAR staff is not allowed to assist in any way with the UTAG or TAP applications. All questions will be directed to utaginfo@utah.gov. I want to touch on the budget just for 1 minute. There are a few caveats that we want to make sure folks are aware of. This is located, as you've seen, in the funding section below the funding information. This is exactly what you see on the screen. You're going to do your budget by technical milestone with personnel costs, operations, and travel. The caveat is no overhead expenses are allowed. Secondly, travel expenses should be directly related to completing a specific milestone. So make sure if you have traveled that you're directly relating it to the work that you're going to be doing in the milestone and not looking to go to a conference that may or may not benefit the project that you're working on. Why a quad chart? Think of this as the abstract. You have worked on a white paper, you have done your milestones and your scope of work, and now you need to synthesize the work into something that can be seen quickly and clearly. That's the quad chart. It's a clear way of providing the information and distilling your important concepts, so be very precise. Think of non-scientists, policymakers, and other stakeholders and communicate to them, as well as reviewers. Help them to see your vision and the commercial potential. The quad chart, as you'll see here, you'll have the researcher and institution name at the top. And I want to direct your attention first to the bottom right-hand corner with the commercialization plan. Do you have IP protection or an IP plan? Describe your market need, your regulatory environment, and your anticipated first customer. These are hints to the kinds of things that we'd like to see in the market need and commercialization plan. You'll also discuss your funding raised to date, as well as where it came from. Is it private or government, and include state and federal? The technology development will define your objectives, which you will have talked about in your milestones, and you will be able to provide a brief description of your technology in the bottom left, including your TRL. Any strategic partnerships you have should be listed here and include a picture, which is, as we know, worth 1,000 words. Anything that you have would be excellent to put in to help people distill the information that you have. Gramma is an online within the online application that you'll download. This is required, and you will upload it into the online application. Protecting your data and making sure that you understand how things are handled. The review and award process. We will have review panels that will be screened for conflict of interest and assign an NDA before review process. They will be sector specific. USTAR expects to have a minimum of 2 technical experts and 1 market expert on each panel, and there will be multiple panels per sector depending on how many proposals are received. USTAR staff will facilitate the review panels, but they do not score. They will make recommendations to the Governing Authority Budget Committee, and they will provide debriefs to those not selected. The governing authority will then, the budget committee will review the recommendations, and the final approval will come from the full USTAR governing authority. The review criteria. The complete review criteria can be found on the UTAG program announcement at ustar.org under our programs. But here we're going to talk about the weighting as well. The technical merit is worth 25%. The market need and commercialization plan, 25%. Potential economic impact to the state, 20%. And the technical ability of the team, 15%. Realism of cost, 15%. So again, you can see the emphasis we have on market need, commercialization, and impact to the state, as well, of course, as having a good technical proposal. The technical merit, as you look at the scoring rubric, you'll see that we have suggested criteria for top, middle, and bottom. Reviewer score from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. This is the criteria if you were to score for 5 for each of the areas. The milestones are specific, measurable, and aligned to technology goals for the technical merit. The approach demonstrates a strong understanding and application of technology development best practices. The approach has a high likelihood of success and is well defined, and considers alternative approaches if the original is not successful, with a feasible timeline for development. The TRL is at the appropriate level. The market need and commercialization plan. The market need for the product is demonstrated. There is a clear potential market identified. The researcher can provide data-driven definition of the market with a specific plan identified to take the technology to market. Resources are available, attainable to commercialize the technology, and the technology has defined market advantage to current competitors. It also aligns to USTAR's targeted technology sector. Potential economic impact in Utah. If successful, the technology will be licensed or spun out in 1 to 3 years. Technology has a high likelihood of retaining economic impact in Utah once it leaves the university, and research jobs will be created in the state. The technical ability of the team. The team has a technical background and experience to meet the milestones identified in the proposal. The team has experience working together with a history of success and has a diversity of technical expertise to overcome challenges. Realism of cost. The proposed budget is both adequate and sufficient to complete the work. The personnel budgets provide adequate hours for the work to be completed, and the categories of expenses are reasonable and appropriate. These 5 sections make up what the reviewers will be looking at. Once awarded, the contracts will be negotiated between USTAR and the college or university. The researcher will have to fill out a budget template, which has more detail, and each contract will address the distribution of funds. Funding will be spent in Utah unless justified and approved. Awardees are required to meet with the USTAR staff. We will assess the milestone project and completion with ongoing meetings as required. UTAG awardees will also be required to respond to a survey annually regarding their economic impact on the state. The agreements will be made between the college. USTAR will meet with the awardees as the project goes on, and there will be an annual survey that the awardees will be required to fill out. These are some of the locations that you can find the information, as we've been saying throughout. Program announcement and questions is at ustar.org. Our program's UTAG. The application form is at utagutah.com. Questions are submitted to utaginfo@utah.gov. The important dates, February 10th, Friday, 5 p.m., for a letter of intent, which is again non-binding, not required, and can be very simple, indicating the technology sector that you'll be applying to, your research name, and your institution. The application is due Thursday, February 23rd at 5 p.m. That is a hard stop. You're in by 5 or you're not in. We have 2 more webinars coming in on Thursday the 26th at 8:30 a.m. and at Tuesday the 31st from noon to 1:30. We will be taking questions now, and I thank you very much for your time. And it looks like we have 2 questions. When is the soonest that I can submit my application? Ivy?
So the application portal is open now, and you can submit whenever you're ready. Of course, it has to be prior to the due date, but we are taking applications now.
And our next question is, can I sign the GRAMA with an electronic signature? And I don't believe so. I believe that we have to download that.
Yes, you're right, Mary. You need to download the forms, sign it with a hard copy signature, and then scan them and load them back into the system.
Okay. The other question is, can I have fewer than 4 milestones?
Yes, you can have 1 to however many you need. Excuse me. If you need to have more than 4 milestones, please note those on the scope of work document.
Okay, very good. And how do I find my TRL?
So that is a great question. If you look on the USTAR website, in the program announcement, there's a link to TRL descriptions and scales. I'd also encourage you, if you're struggling with that TRL level, there are a few YouTube videos that describe TRL. You can Google TRL and get a wide range of tools for helping you determine where your TRL is. Those are the best resources for TRL.
Very good. Is prior R01 funding necessary for a good score?
No. In fact, well, R01 funding is a good indicator of a strong research agenda. It does not necessarily translate into a specific technology that would result in a product that could be taken to market. We also span not just life sciences, but we have 5 other technology sectors. And we saw successes in the last round from proposers who had received federal funding before and those that hadn't. So it's really dependent on the technology that's proposed.
Fabulous. That's what we like to hear. The preferred format for references, is there one? I don't know that we have one.
We don't. I would default to the APA or whatever the standard is in your field.
Okay. We have received TAP funding for 2017. Can we apply for UTAG with a budget of operational costs minus personal expenses?
No. If you have received TAP funding or GoEd TCIP funding or UTAG funding from a previous round, then you will not qualify for this round of UTAG. And that's specific to the fiscal year.
Right. So in the opening in October, if you went in FY17, which is what I read here, then you're eligible to apply in FY18, which would be in the fall. I'm saying October, but would be in the fall. Can the same team get UTAG with similar but different technologies, even if the technology is different? I'm not sure that I understand it. Can the same team get UTAG, I'm going to add the word SPUNs, with similar but different technologies? Are we talking about 2 UTAG submissions with the same team?
Right. No. So this goes back to, we look at the team that's applied for UTAG funding, and it's unique to the fiscal year. So if you received UTAG funding in fiscal year 17, which is the first round we did this past fall in October, then you cannot receive UTAG funding again this fiscal year. You'll need to wait for the next round.
And I see that one way, and I'm also wondering if perhaps we're asking, can I put in 2 UTAG applications? So let me just ask that. Can we have
Sure.
UTAG with the same team?
You can put 2 UTAG applications in if you haven't received UTAG funding during the fiscal year. You can do that.
And I see a follow-up here. TAP and UTAG are different proposals. TAP is for small businesses. UTAG is for university researchers. It's possible that we could have an overlap from TAP to UTAG we've had companies that can work, researchers can work with a company in UTAG.
So I think it would be more likely to see a technology move from the research out to a company. If the technology has already been licensed to a company for a TAP award, then it would be unusual for it to move back into the laboratory university setting.
Okay. And we have several questions on when will the slides be available, and I would anticipate that they will be available tomorrow. I'm not sure that this recording will be available. The slides will be available tomorrow. So, okay, we'll just wait. Those will be available on our website, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. UTAG can't be applied even when the tech is different. So this person's saying we got TAP from a separate technology. So a company has received TAP for a different technology, and now you want to apply to UTAG, but you got that in FY17.
So I think the piece of information I would need to know is how you're applying for a TAP grant as a business and also UTAG funding as a researcher affiliated with a university. That would make a difference. If the UTAG proposals, none of the funding goes to the company, none of the funding can go to the company. It has to be used for research at the university. It's a completely different research project and is not affiliated with the company, then you might be able to do that, but we would need to see the details on if it's the same principal researcher on the UTAG and on the TAP. I think that would create a problem.
And there is no overlap. It's a different technician, independent of each other, but the same researchers. Okay. So I would suggest that if you did not win in 17, if you won in 17 either way, I would think that you're out until 18.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. I don't see any further questions, so I want to thank you all very much for attending the webinar. We will end now, and we will have, again, if there are further questions, Thursday and next Tuesday, 2 more webinars if you want to pass those on to your colleagues as well. We appreciate your time. Have a good evening.